Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be taking a look at an article from the New York Times. It's basically pure DACA propaganda, Dreamer propaganda. It was published on March 27th and it's written by Adam Liptak. Dreamers tell Supreme Court ending DACA during pandemic would be catastrophic. Well, here's the thing. Not necessarily the case. I love this. The intro here, or whatever you want to call it. About 27,000 of young undocumented immigrants who are part of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program work in healthcare, many of them on the front lines in the fight against the coronavirus. Well, first off, they're technically documented because the only way that they could become part of DACA was to become technically documented. Under DACA, they are known. They had to apply for social security numbers and shit like that to get their DACA status and to be able to work and shit like that. From there, how do we know there are about 27,000 of these DACA people in healthcare? Where did they get this number from? Pull it out of your ass, maybe? Not only that, what they're failing to tell you is a lot of these people who are quote unquote in healthcare are like CNAs and shit. They're not doctors like they're trying to claim or anything like that. They're like CNAs. They got a CNA certificate. They're not really medical personnel. They wipe people's asses and shit. They feed them and do things like that. They take care of them. You know, they might hand them their medication and stuff, but that's about it. And that's kind of pushing it because they technically, I don't know if they might be able to. But anyway, this is just one of those propaganda pieces here. Well, let's get into it. Washington. Aldo Martinez, a paramedic in Fort Myers, Florida, is about one of 27,000 young undocumented immigrants known as Dreamers who work in healthcare, many of them on the front lines in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Source, please. They make this statement, but they don't back it up with anything. They expect you to just accept it as fact, as gospel. I want to know where that figure came from, because I'm calling bullshit. And what gets me is these 27,000 people who are supposedly on the front lines that are DACA, that are Dreamers, they're in professions where they make decent money. They've had the means, motive, and opportunity, being protected by DACA, to apply for legal residency, actual legal residency, to apply for a green card, to work towards citizenship. None of them chose to do that. Maybe a few, obviously some Dreamers did. But these particular ones did not, because they assumed that shit would be taken care of for them. They didn't take care of their own shit, and now they're worried about getting deported, and they're trying to exploit a pandemic to save their asses. This is disgusting. All this exploitation of a situation that should not be politicized. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, whatever. Politics should not be entering the situation. But of course, Adam Liptak here is going to make this politics. Going to play off your heartstrings and your fears. And say, oh yeah, look at, we need them to stop DACA because of this. Because of the pandemic. It's an all-hands-on-deck situation that we have going on, he said, on Friday, halfway through a 48-hour shift, which they try to make it sound like a 48-hour shift is so scary and so bad and it's out of line. Most paramedics work on 48-hour shifts. They work for 2 days, they're on call, and what they do is they sit around until they're physically on call. If they work for a private company, that's actually really common. I have a friend who's a paramedic. He did it for the private companies, and now he does it for a city's fire department. And when he was doing it private, he would have 48 hours on, then he would have 48 hours off. Then he would have 48 hours on and 48 hours off. But yet they try to make it sound like that's uncommon. Mr. Martinez, 26, came to the United States from Mexico when he was 12, and he is able to work thanks to a program announced by President Barack Obama in 2012, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, which in that time, since 2012, we're talking 2020, He's had 8 years to get a green card. He's had 8 years to apply for citizenship and to go through the hoops to become a citizen. But he did not do that. Now, oh, well, if you get rid of me, you're fucked. That's some sleazy shit. This is a fucking little scumbag. He really is trying to exploit this situation like he is. Oh my God. The Trump administration wants to end the program, and at a Supreme Court argument in November, a majority of the justices seemed inclined to let it because it's unconstitutional. Obama even said he did not have the power to do what he did. He just did it. Jesus Christ. He didn't have the power to do it. Of course the Supreme Court's going to say, yeah, it's unconstitutional. Mr. Martinez said it would be foolish to take an army of doctors, nurses, pharmacists, technicians, researchers, and other healthcare workers off the battlefield in the middle of the pandemic. And yeah, okay. Yeah, all that supposed 27,000 are doctors and nurses and pharmacists. Yeah, I call bullshit. I would say the majority of that 27,000, if it is an accurate figure, which I highly doubt, are like nursing assistants and shit. I'd put money on it. I would literally bet $1,000 on that. If it was like I could go down to Vegas and I could put odds on that, I would. I'd bet $1,000. Easy. And I'd probably win. That's how sure I am that this is complete propagandistic bullshit. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are some that are doctors. There are some that are nurses and such, and pharmacists. But I'm not buying that the majority, or even a large number, like, of those people, the supposed 27,000, are people that are doctors and shit. I ain't buying it. Anyway, let's move on. It is imperative that the Supreme Court take account of conditions that did not exist back in November, he said. It seems nonsensical to invite even more chaos into an already chaotic time. So basically, what this idiot's saying is, well, because we got the WuFlu, you should disregard the constitutionality of that and just let me stay. Because I didn't take the time, effort, or energy to actually make my ass truly legal. That's what he's saying. That's pretty bad. The status of healthcare workers like Mr. Martinez was subject of an unusual Supreme Court filing on Friday, one that urged the justices to take into account the new reality. Basically, oh, well, fuck the Constitution, fuck the law. You should make it so that these people get to stay because of the WuFlu. It's disgusting that they're actually trying to exploit this right now for political means. Termination of DACA during this national emergency would be catastrophic, the filing said. Ramesh Wodad, a student at Yale Law School who helped prepare the filing, said the contributions made by the program's recipients are well known. Really? How so? I haven't seen anything in the news about these miracle dreamers, that are doctors and lawyers and mathematicians and shit. Have you? Because I sure as hell haven't. What's well known? It's always been important, and it's a point we've been driving home since the beginning, he said. But this pandemic just brings those interests front and center. No, it doesn't. You're trying to make it sound like you people are all indispensable. And you're all miracle workers, and you're all friggin', lawyers and doctors and Indian chiefs and shit. And I call bullshit. A prescient supporting brief filed in the case in October by the Association of American Medical Colleges and other groups seemed to anticipate the current crisis. The nation, the brief said, was not prepared to fill the loss that would result if DACA recipients were excluded from the healthcare workforce. Well, here's the thing. If they're all important people, they're all making good money. They could have paid the $6,000 or whatever it is. At this point, I think it's $6,000 still. I have a friend who came from Guatemala, and he came here legally, and it cost him like $6,000 to apply. I believe it was. They could have saved up $6,000 and applied for a green card. They could have saved up the money, whatever it is, to apply for citizenship and go through the hoops. They didn't. They had the opportunity. They were being protected. They were being shielded and allowed to do those things. It wasn't like they couldn't. They chose not to. And maybe special accommodations, temporary visas could be issued to them that would allow them to stay through the pandemic. But then their asses, I'm sorry to say, have got to go. They're not here legally. If they're these great doctors and Indian chiefs and lawyers and everything else, they should be able to go back to their country of origin and make a fucking killing. I mean, it won't be like, say if they are a doctor, like say working in Manhattan or some shit at like, one of the best hospitals where all the rich, Upper East Side types go. But they'll still do damn well. Don't you think those countries need doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs? The risk of pandemic also continues to grow, the brief said. Since infectious disease can spread around the globe in a matter of days due to increased urbanization and international travel. Well, that's globalization for you. That's globalism, which we're now walking back from because people are like, shit, globalism got us into this friggin' problem. So that might kind of be a moot point, won't it? These conditions pose a threat to America's health security, its preparedness, and for an ability to withstand incidents with public health consequences. So basically what they're saying is regardless of this one, okay, down the line, you got to keep these people. You got to keep all DACA recipients, is what they're saying, because we need these 27,000 of them, these supposed 27,000, which I still want to know where the hell that number came from. But they're basically saying we got to keep the whole lot of them to keep these people. We can't work out an opportunity and say, oh, well, you're a doctor? Okay. Here's the thing. We need doctors. Well, we'll give you a green card if you do this. If you give us the money that you should have given us, we'll let you stay. They had the opportunity to do that for 8 years. They chose not to. I mean, this is ridiculous. They're saying down the line, we still need to keep them to ensure health security. The country needs a robust health workforce, the brief said. Rescinding DACA, however, would deprive the public of domestically educated, well-trained, and otherwise qualified health. Yeah, because every DACA recipient is a fucking doctor. Every DACA recipient is either a doctor, a nurse, or some other shit. This is disgusting. They want to keep all of DACA. Every one of them. Because we supposedly have 27,000 who are in the healthcare field. This is such propaganda bullshit. It's all or nothing? No. They shouldn't even be here in the first place. But, hey, they could go back to their country and be a doctor there and hell, probably help with their mortality rates and shit like that because they'd be saving lives. Munir I. Ahmed, a law professor at Yale who represents the DACA recipients in Friday's filing, said the basic arguments were not new. Okay, sure they aren't. Never had an opportunity like this to make these friggin' arguments, but now you are and you're saying they're not new. Okay, Ahmed. Still, he said, the pandemic casts in the sharp relief how catastrophic the termination of DACA would be at this point. No, it wouldn't. This is what's ridiculous. The thing is, if they're all doctors and shit like that, you know what? We've got plenty of Americans who go to med school, all right? Who get to the end of their med school and then realize they don't want to be doctors because they don't want to deal with the things like, their insurance, for malpractice and shit like that, and the costs associated with being a doctor. And what's funny is they're trying to make it sound like all these people that are on DACA are doctors and nurses and shit like that. Most of them are CNAs, like I'm saying. I'm telling you, that's my personal feel on it. But they're trying to make it sound like they're very important people in the medical industry. You're going to need them to save your life. When they wipe asses and change bedpans and shit. This is so sad. In the past, President Trump has praised the program's goals and has suggested he wanted to preserve it. No, he hasn't. He campaigned on getting rid of DACA. Holy shit. Does anybody really want to throw out good, educated, and accomplished young people who have jobs, some serving in the military? He asked on Twitter in 2017. Well, the military, they get special dispensation. You serve to get citizenship or legal status. And he was not talking about all of DACA. He was talking about the people who actually made something of themselves, that are doctors and lawyers and aren't being leeches on the system, that don't take out more than they put in. But hey, whatever. He wasn't saying all, but you want to try to play it like that. But when the Supreme Court heard arguments in November, the president struck a different tone. Many of the people in DACA, no longer very young, are far from angels, he wrote on Twitter. Some are very tough, hardened criminals, which is true. See, this is what's funny. They're trying to make it sound like all of DACA, they're all angels. You have 27,000 supposedly, which I think the number's going to be less, especially if you get out the CNAs, the ass wipers and pan changers and shit. The number's going to be far lower. But there's way more DACA recipients than that. And they want to keep all of them to get that to have that small little group. They want all or nothing. And he's pointing out that these people, there are a lot of people that are like criminal gangbangers and shit like that, little shitbags, criminals and other notes. Yeah, and they get revolving door status because they're like an illegal, even though they're DACA. Oh, it's ridiculous. This is so sad that they're politicizing this time. In fact, the program has strict requirements. To be eligible, applicants had to show they had committed no serious crimes. Yes, but the serious crimes are like murder. Okay, there's a lot of other crimes that, an American would see jail time for that they would get a free pass on. Had no serious crimes, had arrived in the United States before they turned 16, and were no older than 30. Yes, this was a while ago, but yeah. Had lived in the United States for at least the previous 5 years and were in school, had graduated from high school, or received a high school equivalency diploma, or an honorably discharged veteran. But the thing is Baby Bush, okay, this is what's funny is they're like, oh, well, they're throwing in the veterans. The veterans were already covered. Baby Bush extended legal status to illegals if they wanted to serve during his little, oil wars, his bullshit weapons of mass destruction crap, and going into countries that didn't even have anything to do with fucking, September 11th. I mean, so come on now. They already were exempted. They served the country to get their status. These other people didn't do shit. The status lasts for 2 years and is renewable, but does not provide a path to citizenship. No, it allows them to stay here, okay, and they can still apply for friggin' legal status or apply for citizenship. It doesn't give them a path. Why the hell should they just get a free fucking path to becoming a citizen and getting all the rights that every other American has, or every fucking, immigrant who came to this country legally, who went through all the hoops, who got their legal status, their green card, and then worked towards becoming a citizen? That's a smack to the face of every one of them to just give them a free walk into becoming citizens. That's one thing that really pisses off my Guatemalan friend. He said if they get a path to citizenship, he's going to just like lose his shit that day. He's going to sound like he has Tourette's. Which, do people who have Tourette's who speak Spanish as a native language, do they swear like native English speakers with it? Because I think it's going to be a little bit of both with him. But yeah, this is the type of shit that's going on here. The Trump administration, which ordinarily takes a broad view of executive power, said Mr. Obama had acted unlawfully in creating the program. No, Obama said that. But okay, let's not cover that fact. Lower courts rejected the rationale for shutting it down. Oh, you mean Obama fucking appointed shitbags did that, but whatever, because they're trying to keep his legacy. Activist judges, hey, but whatever. The United States Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circuit, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Obama, lefty Ninth Circus, in San Francisco, which has a few Obama appointees, but it's still just whacked out Ninth Circus, even if it wasn't an Obama appointee. But anyway, the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit in San Francisco, for instance, acknowledged that presidents have a broad powers to alter the policies of earlier administrations, but said the legal rationale offered by Trump's administration did not withstand scrutiny. You mean the fact that Obama said it was friggin' he didn't have the power to do it doesn't mean that Trump has the power to stop it? Okay. The court also questioned the cruelty and wastefulness of deporting productive young people to countries with which they have no ties. Yes, they do have ties. A lot of them came here when they were like old enough to remember shit and have established a life there when they were a kid, but whatever. When the case was argued in November, Solicitor General Noel J. Francisco, representing the administration, said it is entitled to end the program, which it is. DACA was always meant to be a temporary stopgap measure that could be rescinded at any time, which is why it is only granted in 2-year increments, he said. So I don't think anybody could have reasonably assumed that DACA was going to remain in effect in perpetuity. Oh, excuse me. So yeah, it was never intended to be perpetual and keep going, you know? But yet, they're still trying to use this, and what gets me is, well, it would be cruel, it would be mean. If they're all doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs, they can go back to their country and make friggin' bank. Even for those, you know, even for U.S. standards, they'd be making good money. They might not be making, you know, like I said, Manhattan serving Upper East Side money, but they'd be making money. Mr. Martinez, the paramedic, said he and his colleagues faced mounting challenges. The Fort Myers population is very old, he said. They have pre-existing conditions that make them more at risk because of the virus. And we have had to put some of our paramedics and emergency medical technicians into quarantine, so that creates a lack of personnel. Now, here's another thing. They're trying to portray this as, we need to keep these people. Couldn't they find one doctor to do this article? That should make you wonder. The best they could find was a paramedic. A paramedic. They could not find a doctor. And here they are, trying to act like he should be the spokesman for all of them. And that they're all doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs and shit. And nurses and stuff. I mean, come on now. It's so funny. If the Supreme Court sustains the DACA program, Mr. Martinez said he hopes to pursue a career as a trauma surgeon. He added that all sorts of undocumented immigrants had been bearing a disproportionate share of the burdens of the current crisis. Bullshit. That's his feels over reels. This is to play at your emotions. Complete bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Yeah, because they make up the majority of the medical forces that are dealing with the situation right now. That's why they're bearing the brunt of it. Sure. The burdens of the current crisis. Disproportionate share. Yeah, they're doing most of the work, according to him. We are part of the workforce, he said. A great amount of us are considered essential. Janitors. Workers in grocery stores. People like myself. Nurses. Doctors. Yeah, because you can't find an American to sweep a fucking floor. Oh, my God. Blow it out your ass, Martinez. Can't find an American to work in a fucking grocery store. Blow it out your ass, buddy. All of us are working toward protecting the public. Yeah, someone sweeping a fucking floor. Sure. Someone friggin' stocking shelves in a grocery store. Sure. Sure, they're doing that. If we are unable to do that, we'll have an even harder time trying to deal with this pandemic. Oh, God. Fear-mongering and propaganda. Oh, we better not do DACA because, it could mean the end of us. You know, we got to keep DACA well past the fact of this pandemic because another one could come down, maybe, if possibly. Come on. This is such ridiculous shit. This is why I covered this, because they're literally trying to exploit the situation with the pandemic to basically turn people against ending DACA, trying to play it like all these people are doctors and nurses and shit like that. But then you look at the very end, they're talking about the people who work at grocery stores and people who sweep floors and shit like that. The doctors and nurses, I think we can, if they had made an effort, it wouldn't be an issue. They'd have their green cards. Maybe halfway to their citizenship. But no. Martinez here, what did he do with his money he was making as an EMT? Did he put some away and apply for a green card? Of course not. They just expect to be handed citizenship. They have a sense of fucking entitlement that, it's to a point where it just turns your stomach to the fact that these people actually think that they're better than the other people that try to come to this country legally, like my Guatemalan friend, who, because of their bullshit, if I could make him accent neutral, they would seriously be like, he's a racist Trump supporter. And then I could roll him around the corner and they'd be like, what the fuck? Because he says shit that's like, God damn. Like with the caravans, the stuff that was coming out of his mouth, I was like going, shit, man, you might want to keep that to yourself, because some people might not take kindly to you saying it and might not forgive you, even though you're Guatemalan, and let you get away with it. And he wasn't even being like, racist or anything like that. He was just like going off. And I mean, when I say going off, he was going off. Anyway, I've covered this well enough. I'm just going to leave things here. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video, when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.